All right, everyone, thank you for your patience as we were getting the interpretation set up. As you see on your screen, there's a little screenshot of how to get that up and ready. I do have one disclaimer. We're working on the interpretation room for Amharic, so if you could give us a few moments to figure that out. But we're going to get started. Thank you so much for joining our session today in our cyber safety webinar series. Before we begin, again, just a reminder, if you click that globe at the bottom of your screen, you will be able to see the offerings for interpretation. Right now, we have Spanish and we have Korean, and like I said, Amharic is coming on the way. My name is Carla Garcia, and I'm joined by my colleague Beth McKay, and we're technology implementation specialists in the Department of Educational Technology for Montgomery County Public Schools. We're really excited to kick off this webinar, and we're going to be talking about cyber fraud, cyber financial, with two amazing presenters, and this is going to be geared towards our students. What I want to do now is going to just share a little bit about our wonderful presenters today. We have Joelle Bempa and Dietrich Bempa, and they're both experts and insider threats at cybersecurity at Capital One. Um, Joel is a digital forensics analyst with Insider Threat at Capital One, and in his role, he conducts in-depth forensic investigations, collecting and analyzing digital evidence to uncover the root cause of security incidents and support enterprise-wide efforts to protect sensitive data. Prior to this, Joel spent 4 years at Capital One's Cybersecurity Operations Center, honing in his skills in threat detection and incident response. He holds a degree in computer networks and cybersecurity from UMGC and has earned 7 cyber industry certifications. Dietrich is an insider threat analyst at Capital One, where he investigates potential insider risks and escalates cases of data loss prevention, helping to prevent sensitive data from leaving the organization. Dietrich began his cybersecurity journey in 2019 through the Year Up program and gained experience at GE Digital, AWS Data Centers, and Andrews Federal Credit Union before joining the team at Capital One. So I'm going to have them take over now.
Thank you for the introduction, Carla. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Carla, for the introduction. So let's start out with the topic. Why financial cybersecurity matters. So first, what do we mean by financial cybersecurity? Basically, it's about protecting your money and financial data from cyber criminals. That means keeping things like your bank account info, credit card numbers, and online transactions safe from cyber criminals or hackers who try to basically steal this information from you. So why should we care about this? Well, think about it. Think about it from this angle. Most of us have some sort of like digital connection to our finances. I'm sure a lot of you watching have like a Netflix subscription or some kind of streaming service. Maybe you shop online or you use payment apps like Venmo, Apple Pay, or Cash App. Even just having your bank's mobile app counts. All of these involve financial data that can be targeted. And honestly, everyone here has a digital footprint as well, which is the trail of data we leave behind whenever we're online. The more we do things digitally, the larger that footprint becomes, and the more chances hackers have to exploit that digital footprint. So protecting our financial information isn't just a company's like Capital One's responsibility. It's something that affects each of us personally. Next, please. And you see a stat here at the bottom, just to put into perspective. According to the F-Secure Living Secure survey from 2024, about 85% of people said they received a digital scam attempt. That's a lot of people, and it really shows how common these threats are and why protecting our financial information matters for all of us. Next slide, please. So let's expand on what a digital footprint is. Like I said earlier, it's a trail of data we leave behind whenever we use the internet or any digital device. Every click, search, post, or even like an app you access leaves some sort of trace or like digital trace behind. So there are actually two main types of digital footprints. We have active and passive. An active footprint is the stuff we intentionally share, like what we post on social media, the photos we upload, the things we buy online, or even emails and forms we fill out. I'm sure a lot of you have posted something on Instagram, signed up for a newsletter, or made an online purchase. All of that adds to your active footprint. Then there's the passive footprint, which is a bit more sneakier because it's something that's done in the background. This is the data that's automatically collected without us really thinking about it. Things like cookies, tracking the websites we visit, our device location, or even our IP address. It's data that's gathered quietly as we browse or use our phones. And you notice I mentioned cookies when discussing a passive digital footprint. A lot of times you've noticed like in the bottom of websites, there's a little pop-up that says, do you want to accept cookies? And even if you decline that option or that request, you're still having your cookies tracked, even if you don't accept. So whether we're aware of it or not, every time we go online, we're leaving behind digital traces. And together those traces make up your digital footprint. Next slide, please. So let's get into all these different types of cyber fraud threats that happen to most of us, or that can happen to you guys. Phishing, smishing, vishing, social engineering, online shopping, and sextortion. Next slide, please.
Eh, I can do this one. Um, so this quote over here, this is a saying that our professor used to always say to us back in college. There are two types of people in this world, those who've been hacked and those who don't know they've been hacked. And this might sound a little dramatic or crazy, but the point he's trying to make is that most people have a piece of their information, whether that's email or password or maybe even their credit card number that's floating around somewhere online. And this could be caused from like a data breach or phishing scam that they don't even like realize. Most people don't even realize that they've been a part of. And that's why cybersecurity awareness is not just for our IT people anymore, but just for everyone, whether that's like students, parents, teachers, professionals, anyone who's ever been online, which is pretty much like everyone in the general public. So today we're going to talk about how these type of hacks or fraud attempts happen and how to spot those warning signs, and more importantly, how to protect yourself. Um, if you had to not make sure you don't say, I had no idea how my, data was going to be compromised or not. So, whether you've been hacked or not, by the end of the session, you'll make sure you'll know how not to be an easy target.
Right, and we'll make sure you have all the safeguards in place. So let's start out with phishing. So phishing is a cyber crime trick where criminals send fraudulent emails and pretend to be from people or organizations you trust. This includes like banks, coworkers, classmates, or companies you use. So you've probably seen them. They can have emails like your account will be closed or click here to avoid a late fee, something dramatic like that. So what's the goal with these phishing emails? It's pretty much to make you click a malicious link, open an infected attachment, or hand over sensitive info like usernames, passwords, or financial details. If they succeed, they can impersonate you or drain your accounts or use your credentials to get into other systems. So how do you spot a phishing email? Well, there are a few red flags for you to notice. The sender's address might have weird misspellings or an odd domain, and domain being like, at instead of at yahoo.com, they have something at random jj.com, something very strange for the domain. The message uses some type of urgent or threatening language, like I mentioned earlier. It's like act now or immediate response required. Or the email asks for info they shouldn't need by email. So, what should you do when you see a phishing email? Pause and think first and don't rush. Take a breath and read the message carefully. Don't click links or download attachments you notice in the emails as well, especially if it's from someone you're not familiar with. Many email apps and service providers give you an option to report an email, then block and delete the sender. So most importantly, I think the most important thing you should do when you see a phishing email or an email you suspect is phishing, verify separately. Contact the person or company emailing you by using a phone number or email address or something that's real, or talk to them in person, something that's just making sure it's not through that specific email channel. And if it's from your bank, make sure, oh, sorry, if it's from your bank, make sure you just call your actual bank. Don't, if it's an email, if it's a phishing email that says that they're coming from your bank, make sure you just actually call your bank, talk to a real person. So that's all part of verifying who exactly you're speaking to or who exactly you're messaging. So the bottom line is phishing succeeds when we when we don't, yeah, phishing succeeds when we act quickly and don't think. That's how a fish succeeds. But if you stop, pause, and think, then, and verify as well, then you won't be phished or you'll have a less likelihood of being phished. Next slide, please.
All right, now, so smishing explained. So smishing is pretty much like phishing, except it's just like a text message version of that. Of like instead of like emails, it's just text messages. And basically scammers use text messages to trick people into giving up personal or financial information, such as like passwords or bank details or like even verification codes. Their main goal is to steal your info or like even in some cases get money from you. And what it usually looks like is it's like phishing attempts. It's pretty much like an urgency or like threatening type of message, or like your account will be locked if you don't click on this link or see what's going on with this link someone's sending. And it might look like a trusted source, usually like your bank or a delivery service or a job recruiter. And sometimes it's just a random text message from a stranger or maybe a link or something like Easy Pass or tolls you haven't paid, something like that. I'm sure we all had like those messages at some point. But a key thing to remember is that if it feels off, it probably is. And what do you do when you get one? So don't click on any links. Even like sometimes people would say when you're phishing and you hover, if you get a phishing email and you like to hover on that link and you sometimes see that the link on the bottom is like way longer than it shows over there. With smishing it's kind of different because you can't really like hover on the link or like hold the link because you're still kind of you're clicking on that link essentially, and that could still be negatively affect you. So don't click any links, like pause and before reacting, verify the sender, whether that's going to be like from a company official website. Try calling the actual number first or like the associated bank or person they claim to be. Try to look up their information and call them ahead of time. And also usually just delete the message and report it to junk if your phone allows you to. Report it as junk or spam. Smishing like usually like preys on emotion, and urgency and fear. So the best way to do is not like be curious about it. The best way is to just like slow down, like Dietrich mentioned too, with phishing, and just like, just delete it. And that's pretty much it for smishing. Can next slide, please? Thank you. So over here, vishing is pretty much like we mentioned with phishing and smishing, except this stands for like voice phishing. And this is when scammers use phone calls or voicemails to trick you into giving away personal information or financial information. It's like phishing, but it's a voice, like someone calling you with urgency, trying to basically scam you essentially. It could steal like, money. You could get a call that says, "Hey, this is your bank. We received suspicious activity on your account. Can you confirm your card number and PIN?" It sounds official, but it's like a trap that plenty of people use, or sometimes there's a fake Amazon number, you think you're talking to real Amazon customer service, and really it's just somebody in some foreign country trying to scam you. Or maybe it's like a FedEx or UPS call. It could be like anything now, but if they're just calling you to, make sure that you do what they get, give out any information that they want you to, send out. And pretty much the actions you need to take to make sure like you don't fall victim to this is be cautious. If it feels like really pushy and urgent, right away it's like probably vishing. Don't ever give out like personal information um over the phone unless like you initiated that in the call. Like if the person's like really asking you to, it's probably vishing. And hang up and verify. Call your bank, call the company they're pretending to be, and directly from their official website, not from the phone call they're calling you from. And also like block and report that as well. And real companies will never ask you anyway to share your personal information too. Or like card numbers or pins, they want to really ever do that. So like we said earlier, just make sure you slow down and don't fall victim to that, and trust but verify. Okay, the next slide, I know we can't really do like polls or anything here, but how many people think the one on the left is a smishing attempt, and how many people think the one on the right is, or do you think they both are? I know we can't do polls, but the one on the right, or my right at least, with the tolls or whatever, and the one on the left with the T public, the one on the right is a smishing attempt. That one was one I received whenever date I posted that. I get a lot of these randomly. I know other people got some too, but you know how you could see how like urgent it is. This is like an example or like some DMV kind of thing. You can see how like urgent it is and like saying, oh, report, they want me to like that link that they posted over there. They want me to like, go on that and they could probably get some type of personal data from me. The one on the left though is an actual website that I shop at for t-shirts, T Public, and it is verified. It looks like spam. You even see the automated like report to spam button, but that one is legit. So like there are some legitimate messages that can look like smishing, but I still want to click on that link anyway, because I could just go on the website to get another shirt or see a bundle if I want to. So, it's just a practice, that's another thing we're going to talk about later, security over convenience. Even though it's like easier for me to just click that, I want to like make sure and go to the actual site to verify that.
Yeah, and even on the right screenshot, sorry, just to go back, you're seeing like all this, like Joel mentioned earlier, all this language, this intense language, like you'll be prosecuted immediately, enforcement, like just all of these messages to make you like more worried and more frantic to like quickly click the link. So that's all part of like smishing attempts, and then you'll see the same thing in phishing attempts as well.
Yeah, it's very excessive too. But yeah. Okay, so social engineering explain. So social engineering, excuse me, it's basically like one of the most sneakiest forms of like cyber crimes because it doesn't like target your computer, it targets you, like in the real world. Social engineering is when someone manipulates you, not technology, to get confidential information or like access to something. Basically, an attacker like kind of plays mind games with you instead of like hacking code or hacking your laptop. And we could see how this works with a few examples, like baiting, like the found a USB trick. So imagine you're like walking down the hallway or like in a cafeteria or somewhere, and you see like a USB drive labeled free games or exam answers or something that might strike your curiosity. It could be tempting, but the goal here is that when you plug that into your computer or laptop, it infects your computer with malware and steals your data. So they call this like a rubber ducky too in like the cyber world. So like make sure you don't like stick anything foreign into your laptop or anything, and any drive that you don't know. Because it could be malware, it could be somebody like installing a whole rootkit to your device without you knowing, or like some keylogger without you knowing. So like, or like even if you go on a bank, they could see that. So like, is if you see a USB, make sure you don't like put any random USBs into your computer at all, because that could actually just be a trick, a social engineering trick that someone could do onto you. Or another example is like a fake profile or fake friend that adds you on social media. Like say you get a new follower, a friend request, maybe someone who seems nice, has mutual friends. But before long, they start asking, like, it might seem like a conversation, but they start asking about like personal stuff, like certain pictures, where you live, your address. And you might think they're trying to get to know you better, but this is a way that they're socially engineering you to get, private information. And they're trying to gain your trust before they could exploit you. That's the whole purpose of the scam. So be cautious about that when you're on social media, about people who you know online, and don't overshare or send any personal details. And finally, there could be like a romance scam, like someone online that you're into sends like sweet messages, kind of like the one before, maybe even calls you like, their babe or sweet thing or whatever. Like then suddenly they start asking you for emergency money and like starting asking for like some type of like fund to, if you don't love me unless you send me this amount of money. Sometimes they even pretend to be actual celebrities and people do fall for it, thinking that Jennifer Aniston or Beyonce wants to be their wife, and that they're just on a Facebook with 14 followers. But some people do fall for it. Many people do, not just older people. But this could be another social engineering trick to, get your money or sometimes even like blackmail you once they have your money or scam you later. And the way to do this to safeguard is to just never, send out money to anybody, never share like private pictures to anybody. Like if that person who claims to be your wife might ask you to send some provocative photos that you wouldn't send anywhere else, but then they could use that to eventually just blackmail you. So don't send any photos, don't send any private information to anybody. Um, because social engineers like they really just prey on your trust and curiosity and emotion. So make sure you just are defensive of that. You can use like antivirus software on yourself, but you can make sure that you block um from oversharing yourself to other people and be very skeptical, have skepticism about like an awareness of like people. Not saying you should be paranoid of everything, but trust but verify. All right, and online scams. So basically these are like fraudulent schemes designed to trick you into giving your money away or personal info or access to your bank accounts. And these scams are everywhere. They don't just show up in emails anymore. They kind of live rent free on your feed, like Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube. You might see like an ad for like shoes or electronics or concert tickets. For an unbelievable price that you can't believe is like so cheap. You got to get it. But and it might actually for crypto, and it might like say you got to pay this now, but it's like really just taking your money and never giving it back. And like let's break down the most common forms of these online scams, which involve fake online stores, plenty of websites that seem totally legit, has like fancy photos and like fake reviews and like flashy discounts, but the products don't really exist. You get a low quality knockoff, sometimes shipped from who knows where, but their goal is to really just grab your credit card information and use that and then disappear and do whatever they want with it. So there's a lot of fake online stores out there, sometimes even being promoted by certain like known social media apps like TikTok and whatever. So make sure like you're really careful on like these certain websites you go to. A tool I like to use sometimes is called Virus Total. Sometimes I like put a website on there to see if it's actually legit. Sometimes they'll get hits of like malware, and it's like a website that shouldn't be trusted. But then next, moving on, investment scams is another thing. They often also start on social media. Sometimes you have posts or influencers promising, quick profits from crypto, stock trading or online hustles. Might seem like a comment saying, you might see a comment saying, "Oh, I made like $10,000. It's legit. I got this in like 2 weeks." But it's all like fake engagement to like lure you in. So the goal is to like really you give them the money and you think you're investing when really you're just being scammed, kind of like pyramid scheme essentially. And the key thing to also know is like social media algorithms really do amplify this stuff a lot. The more people click, the more these scams and sites get promoted. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat are full of these ads and sponsored posts that look real and legit. Just lead to like fake stores, phishing sites most of the time. So, how could you protect yourself against this? Verify the website, like I mentioned before you buy anything. Look up the company's name and word search words like reviews, scams, and complaints while you're searching that. Excuse me. And I'll make sure the website starts with like HTTPS, of course, but even sometimes the ones that are secure, a lot of times, like because in 2025, there's ways to maneuver around that easy. So a lot of those websites, even that are secure, are not really secure, at least for your information. So be skeptical again, and if the deals seem too good to be true, they usually are. And also check the contact info of those so-called real reviews. And if you can't find a phone number or real customer feedback, that is a huge red flag. And regular scams are really evolving fast. and they're all around. So your best defense is like really awareness on this type of issue. And if something feels off, like, pause before you click on that or to buy it, because, you hit that pay now button, your money or data might be like gone for good in that case. So really be skeptical of anything that looks too good to be true.
Yeah, the phrases to really remember throughout this entire presentation is trust and verify, as well as pause and verify. But moving on to the next slide. So now we're going to get into sextortion, which is a form of digital blackmail. We kind of talked about it a little bit when Joel was going over types of social engineering attacks, where he's talking about like the fake profile or the romance scam. So specifically, sextortion, it's a situation where scammers threaten to release someone's private photos, videos, or personal information unless they pay money or comply with whatever demands they have. So there are a few common examples of this. One is the fake webcam hack. This is where somebody claims like they message you, they they possibly, like we mentioned earlier about being pwned or like having your account manipulated or like hacked at one point. There's a situation where someone finds your email and from whatever repository and they email you or they send you a smishing email and they or a smishing text message and they let you know that they hacked your camera and they recorded you. That's one example where they say we recorded you, we have you on camera, pay up or else. Another example is like we mentioned earlier, the romance or dating app scam. This is when a scammer builds enough trust with you over time, sometimes pretending to start a relationship and then pressures you to share like personal photos or even like explicit photos because now you would develop some type of relationship with this person online you've never really actually met, and they gain your trust enough for you to actually send, certain pictures or videos to them. That's another example of sextortion where then those pictures are later used against you. And they demand money. They demand money, or else they say they'll share those photos with the internet or people or family, stuff like that. And then there are the mass email threats, like I mentioned earlier, where scammers send out messages claiming they've hacked your device and recorded you. I've actually, like I said, had or I didn't mention this earlier, but I've had a personal experience with this where I've received a random like email, like a type of phishing email where they're like, "Oh, well, we have you on video. We recorded you doing specific acts. Pay up now, or else we're going to release these photos." And then that's when the pause and verify comes in. I'm like, I haven't done any suspicious activities in front of my laptop. Plus, I have a cover on my webcam, so there's no way you could have possibly recorded me. So that's when you have to like really pause and verify, like know yourself and be like, wait a minute, why am I gonna pay this ransom or even respond to this person when I know I haven't done certain acts? But that kind of gets me down to the safeguards and speaking about what you should do when certain stuff like this happens. So, like I said, pause and verify, but also do not engage or pay. Paying often just encourages more threats. So instead, you should pretty much enable your privacy settings. If it's possible for you, buy tape or buy a laptop webcam cover to just cover your webcam whenever you're not using it. Like I mentioned before, like I do. Next, report the incident both to like law enforcement or to like the platform where it happened. It's also important to like save evidence before you delete anything, like take screenshots of like the email they sent to you, take screenshots of the demands, save emails, save usernames. Just keep any type of proof that you can provide to like law enforcement or whoever you're reporting this to. And finally, talk openly about online safety with your peers, your friends, or adults, because this is something that everybody is vulnerable to, and anybody could get manipulated in some capacity if you're not careful enough. So when people feel comfortable discussing this with each other, it then reduces the stigma and it makes it much easier to get help quicker. So, talking about this with people is really important. Next slide, please. And then here's a little statistic as well. So as you can see in 2025, from a Newsome Gen Digital report, it said in 2025 the risk of being targeted with sextortion scams has risen in the U.S. by 137%. That's a lot. So clearly this is happening in high degrees. And then something from PR Newswire, they said 90% of financial sextortion victims or boys age 14 to 17. So these are the types of people that are being targeted. And this is why it's even more important to make sure you're comfortable having those conversations with family, peers. Just like I said earlier, reduce the stigma.
Okay. Have you been pwned? Check your footprint. So first off, what does pwned even mean? Pretty much is like slang that means I think it started like in the gaming kind of world, but it's like slang for you've been owned or like compromised. And in cybersecurity terms, that means your data has been like caught in a data breach. And when people say like, have you been pwned? They're asking like, has your email, password, or personal information been exposed in a data breach somewhere on the internet? And like pretty much you could find this out by going to the website. You all could check this on if you don't know already on your own time or even like quickly like put that website URL, haveibeenpwned.com. And you could then see if your email, you just enter your email address, and then you could see if your email address was associated with any like data breaches or exposed in the dark web in any way. And I've done this with mine before. My email, it'll have stuff that shows up, but the best thing to do after that happens, if you notice, that's to like change your password, get MFA, an extra login attempt in the login code, keeps hackers out for sure. Doesn't even if they have your password, if you do that extra safeguard, they can't log in. Um, Also like just monitor your accounts for like any suspicious like activity going on, like random password reset attempts. Like you get an email saying, did you want to reset your password? And you're like, I don't remember clicking that. That could be an indicator that your password is somewhere in the dark web for your email address. Also just check your other accounts too to see if that's been compromised as well. They may be at risk too. And data breaches happen all the time. Like it's not about like really like if, but like more so when it happens. Because breaches are happening all like there are times like we even like had a whole thing at work where people were checking their work email addresses and found out everybody was like, oh, I've been pwned. Like different people found out that their work email address had been compromised and they had to reset their password and everything. And like pretty much like anyone's a victim to this is what I'm saying. Like, so after the session, make sure you like go on haveibeenpwned.com and like run your email and see what's out there. It's one of the easiest ways to take control of your digital footprint. Okay, top cyber attacks targeting teens. So this slide pretty much was from data collected from FBI, NCMEC, and other cybersecurity reports. And we're seeing that like teens are hit the hardest like by these five types of attacks. Number one being phishing and fake login pages, which is honestly like not a surprise. This is the biggest one scammers use to send fake messages or DMs that look like they're from Instagram or TikTok or even your school login page. Say things like, "Oh, your account will be deleted unless you verify," or some type of way to for you to engage and like click on that link and log in, and then boom, they have your login information and password. They could use that any way they want to, and always go straight to the app or a website that's official, like we mentioned before clicking on random links that claim to be from that official source. Next, we have social engineering and catfishing, which this also includes sextortion at like 25%. This one's growing fast. It starts off when someone like online pretends to be your friend or romantic interest, like we mentioned before, and they build trust with you. Um, you take personal or private pics and send it to them. Then they could use that to scam or blackmail you. So a tip for that is like to never, of course, like we mentioned before, send private photos of yourself to anybody. Don't send personal information to anyone you don't know or people you just know online. You don't really like know those people. And a lot of times, sometimes they put fake profile pictures too. Like nowadays, they're using AI to make profile pictures. That might look like someone attractive that you might want to be friends with, but it's really just scheme that somebody's trying to do to like scam you. Next, we have like malware and like free games or apps. You probably seen like links for some certain like if you're really into gaming or anything, free game mods or cheat codes or cracked versions of paid apps. A lot of those downloads like hide malware and that they could spy and steal your accounts too. It's a lot of spyware that's happening too. It like pretends to be this app, but really, you turn your location on, they'll see what location you're going through. You go into your browser, Safari, it kind of sees what kind of things we're searching for. So it's really just a lot of like spyware stuff that happens in these type of malwares with games. Then credential stuffing is the next one. This is when attackers use an email and password combos leaked from other sites and try logging into your accounts like Netflix, social media apps, or anything else. Teens get really hit the hardest from this because they reuse passwords a lot. So that's why it's also good to not like reuse the same password all the time for everything. Use different passwords for every site, you know and enable two-factor authentication is the best way to like avert this situation. And then finally, like gaming and virtual currency scams is like 10%. These are like fake giveaways, like send me like some type of Robux kind of thing, or I'll double it. They'll like people do this too online. They'll try to like DM you like, hey, I have a way we can make 30,000. You just gotta send me like 100, it's scam. It's all like kind of like pyramid scheme type of stuff. So like never trade or like buy in-game currency outside official, website or platforms that it's coming from. Yeah, so if you look at the chart, phishing and social engineering make up over half of the attacks teens face online. That means the biggest risks aren't just technical, they're psychological. Hackers don't always break through just from the computer. A lot of times they just like really talk their way through and socially engineer you.
Yeah, and I also want to add too, like you might say like, well, with the whole social engineering catfishing, like, well, I can just FaceTime them, I can just jump on a call with them through my laptop, like maybe Zoom. A lot of people are using deep fakes now. A lot of people are using special applications to do deep fakes, to pretend to be a whole other person and physically move while they have a whole fake avatar that they're using or a whole fake person that they're using to portray another person. So a lot of people use deepfakes. Do not send, personal photos or like intimate photos online to someone you think you trust. Meet that person in real life. Do things there. Do not send that type of stuff online or digitally just to help
Yeah,
prevent.
also going back on like the deepfake stuff, there's a lot of people from certain countries, like for example, in China, they're going to a lot of different like tech companies and on Zoom, they look like a completely different person because they're using a type of AI software to change their appearance to completely somebody else. So they're getting really advanced. So this is how they could also pretend to be a celebrity, and they think some people who are not really that, aware of these type of scams could fall victim to it. Because now with AI, there's all these like softwares to change your face up and
Change your voice as well.
yeah,
Change your
change your
voice.
voice too while you're having a conversation with somebody. So it's a lot easier to trick people into scamming or getting money from you.
And that's another thing that I just actually remembered. There's actually ways people can do a whole vishing scam where people can, like you mentioned earlier, use AI to pretend to be your brother, your sister, saying, "Oh, I got in an accident. I'm using someone else's phone because my phone died. Send money to this." And they're gonna, grab your emotion for you to quickly, frantically send them whatever it is, because that's really what social engineering is. It's getting the emotion from the person and the psyche of the person, so they're more quick to action to send whatever it is that the person wants from you or that the cyber criminal wants from you. So that's just something to think about. It's gone more advanced now.
Yeah. All right. And if there's one thing that we would want you to take away from this today is that always choose security over convenience. Yeah, I know it's like easier to reuse the same passwords, to click on a link instead of verifying it, or like skip doing two-factor authentication because it takes a few extra steps. Um, but those quick shortcuts really are exactly what cyber criminals want. They count on you to do those easy steps. They count on you to not verify. Every time we choose convenience over security, we open the door for them. And taking the time to like double check a link or set up two-factor authentication or use a different password might feel like a hassle in the moment, but it's nothing compared to the headache, you're gonna get when you're hacked. and losing all your personal information and data. So always remember security over convenience. So when you're online, on your phone, or even in real life, your digital safety is worth a few extra steps. So always choose security over convenience every time. Teacher, do you want to add on to any of that?
Yeah, and also trust but verify as well.
Yeah.
Important thing. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Hope you guys learned a lot. Hope you guys can take away from this presentation and apply it to your like real world and your personal life, as well as like educate other people as well who probably aren't familiar with some of the safeguards we mentioned or the nefarious activities cyber criminals can do as well. So really appreciate getting the platform as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both so much for sharing your knowledge on just cyber safety, cybersecurity overall, and how it's not only just impacting our students, but any adult, all the way to our elderly, as we're seeing specifically a big push in like crypto scams and all of that for older people. But now we have a few more minutes and was wondering if we could transition into a few questions for you based on your great presentation. The first one that I had was, given your background, you both work at a major financial institution, Capital One, what would you say is the most single common or concerning cybercrime trend that you've seen targeting like customers and their personal bank accounts for this year?
Yeah, this year I would probably say like phishing scams are still like number one and like the biggest that people use to get people it because even people at our job even fall for it a lot. We do like phishing like exercises all the time. And smishing too now is also like the biggest one that I've also been seeing. Because a lot of times it comes from a like it seems like it's coming from your bank and people really do believe it's coming from their bank and they fall for it and they give out all their information. And it's a lot of times too happening from other apps like TikTok or something, somebody claiming to send them this type of money and they send it off. But Capital One has like safeguards. So if there's a weird amount of money or a large amount of money like being sent suspiciously, Capital One, the bank actually prevents that from happening a lot of times. But yeah, I would say phishing is probably like the biggest.
Thank you. Next question. Let's say a customer reports fraud, specifically phishing or smishing attempt. What is the first and most critical action a financial institution takes to secure the customer's account?
I think like what Joel mentioned earlier, a lot of times like the company will, prevent certain transactions from like happening beforehand, but also if it does happen, not only will the bank give the money back, but they'll also freeze your account, making sure that you can't do any more purchases unless, you give the go ahead to the bank to make purchases. So a lot of times like the bank will work with you on when to actually make your legitimate purchases from your own, whenever you choose to do so. Um, yeah, that's a big thing. Freezing the account and then making sure like passwords for your accounts, whether it's in the bank app, um, making sure all those passwords are changed so you can have like a clean slate and making sure that no one's accessing whatever was compromised or the compromised account.
Thank you. For our next question, in your presentation, you guys talked about 2FA or two-factor authentication. What is one advanced but very easy to implement step that you'd recommend for people whose data has been already exposed in a breach?
Yeah, I would say directly. So for example, if it's like a bank or something, your bank credit card's like already been exposed to a breach, I would say like quickly just call your bank to freeze your account. Just freeze the account, prevents any further charges from happening and prevents anybody from continuously like using it. So until you get a request a new card and get a new card, just freeze the account for now. Freeze even like if it's not your bank account or some other thing, just like freezing is the way to go outside of changing the password or like doing two-factor authentication.
And for
Yeah.
our last question, I'm sure we have a lot of parents and caregivers in the audience right now. You're talking about these criminals in cyber finance, they're only getting smarter. They're using AI, they're using deep fakes just to get better. And we also, as consumers, need to get smarter. What is one piece of advice that you guys would say or give, like a safeguard that parents and caregivers should be teaching their teens to help mitigate these attacks?
It's what we've been saying the entire time, which I think is great, and it kind of ties everything together. Trust but verify. Verify who exactly is talking to you through online channels, and make sure you're physically talking to that person, whether that's in person. Just also with the sextortion side, making sure you're destroying that stigma by having conversations about this, saying what people online are capable of doing to you. Just having that communication with your parents, having that communication with your peers or any your classmates, anybody around you. This makes it just normalizes the conversation, the stigma where people can, when they see an email or they see a smishing text message, they're like, oh, I already know I can just talk to so and so. They're right here. I can just call so and so on the phone and speak to them. Or, well, not really speak now, just talk to them in person because, like I said, you can do AI phishing attempts as well when people are faking fraudulent calls, from different numbers, of course, not what you have in your contact in your phone. So always trusting and verify, just making sure you're doing that step to verify exactly who you're talking to.
Thank you so much both for your time, for sharing your insights, your experiences, and your knowledge over such important topics that we're experiencing as a society today. I also want to thank everyone who was able to join our session in our cyber safety webinar series. Before you go, please take a moment to visit our MCPS cyber safety website. We're going to provide the link in the chat for you guys. It has different resources. One resource that was a great one that you guys gave was the data breach site where you can check. I did that earlier and it was about 14 different hits. So I definitely need to check and update my passwords. But there's a lot of resources on our site as well as the upcoming sessions that we're going to have. If you'd like, you can join us next Thursday, October 30th, and we're going to have another Capital One expert, and she's going to be talking about common cyber financial crimes. And we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.